Welcome to the Automatic Patient Podcast, where we help your dental practice create a kick-ass recurring revenue model.
Yeah, baby.
Here are your hosts, Mr. Jordon and Justin Comstock. This podcast is powered by BoomCloud. Create, manage, and grow your dental membership program. Schedule a demo on boomcloud.com.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to our first episode ever on this podcast, the Automatic Patient Podcast. My name is Jordon Comstock. I am your co-host. With me today is my co-host, Justin Comstock. He's my twin brother and our Chief Operating Officer over at BoomCloud. What's up, Just? How you doing?
Pretty darn good.
Sweet, man. It's Friday. We're recording a podcast, a new one. Exciting stuff here today. We wanted to start this episode off just kind of explaining why we're doing this podcast, a little bit about our stories, and kind of some details of how we're going to go about this podcast. So really, we're starting this podcast because we want to help practices really create a kick-ass patient attraction system, recurring revenue system, operating system, so they can live a better quality of life and have a better business asset, right? At least that's my goal. I know we've been talking about this podcast for several years now, developing this type of podcast. Absolutely. Where it's all about marketing, recurring revenue, and operations. So I'm super pumped that we're finally doing it.
It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah. So just to start off, let's talk to our new listeners that are listening and kind of educate them about our background. So once again, my name is Jordon Comstock. I am the founder and CEO of a company called BoomCloud, which is a software company that helps practices create, organize, grow, and scale a dental membership program, which enables recurring revenue and reducing dependence on insurance companies. Started it in 2016 is when we became a real company, but it obviously took some effort and time before that to get it going. Before that, I managed a dental lab with my trusty co-host Justin. That was actually our dad's and grandpa's dental lab. So I managed it for about 8 years, and really we both grew up in dentistry. Never thought I'd be in this industry, but today I am, and I absolutely love it. It's a great industry to be a part of. And growing up, our mother worked for an office, pediatric dental office, and she was the insurance coordinator. So I had the ability or the opportunity to listen to every single insurance call she had, and I learned how stressful that was. And the same thing when I joined my dad's company, Salt Lake Dental Lab, and was managing that company. We found that practices were really stressed out working with insurance companies, and I simply asked myself one day, well, why don't we do something about it? I read a book called The Automatic Customer, which the title of this podcast is inspired from, and the Automatic Customer taught me that predictable recurring revenue is super important in any business, including dentistry. And I simply walked into an office one day, one that was working with our dental lab, and they had just launched their brand new, shiny membership plan, and I was fascinated by it. And I found out that they didn't have any technology they were utilizing to manage and scale it. They were manually doing it through binders and other types of techniques. And I simply asked them if I can help them build the software to help them manage and scale their membership plan. And they said yes, and here I am today. That's what kind of started BoomCloud. But once again, been in dentistry. It's been a while now, over 15 years. Grew up in it with Justin here. So, I'll turn the time over to you and kind of tell them about your story, how you got started.
Fantastic. So Jordan and I's stories are very similar. We both started
we're twins.
We're twins.
Identical.
So our identical twins, but our stories are not identical. So
yeah.
My story started in the dental lab with Jordan, working on operations across the dental lab. So working on Crown and Bridge mostly, dealing with partial frameworks and all the operations of the lab and
a true grind.
Building restorations, an absolute true grind, especially when you make those partial frameworks. That is a true grind right there.
Chrome partials, yeah.
Yeah. So I did that for 11 years total, grinding away. I was able to work in the dental lab industry and bring some of the digital technologies to the dental lab and build workflows and processes for all that stuff in the dental lab, and it was fantastic. I'm the type of person that loves to dig into the details, and I like to know all the steps and the procedures to perform a task. So, yeah, that's what I did for 11 years. It working day to day in the dental lab taught me how to follow a given process to a T. So.
Yeah. When on the 11th year, I'd called Justin up because we obviously been talking to each other. We're twins. And I said, I need help. I started a company and wanting to scale it, which, Boom Cloud. And he came on, and Justin, has built our customer success team, and now he runs the show here with me on the operations side. So I'm sure I stress him out quite a bit. I'm teasing. No, I'm really excited that we're doing this, though. Really, the reason why we're doing this is for practice owners. We have a lot of friends in practice ownership, and obviously know a lot of people across the nation that are in practice ownership. And sometimes it's not easy, and it can be a challenge, right? So we want this podcast to be a resource for you, also as a way to learn more about who I am and who Justin is, and who Boom Cloud is, right, as a company, and what we're trying to accomplish in the dental industry. So that's what it's all about. But really, what does all this mean, right? How should a practice develop an automatic patient attraction system, right? And another word for that is just a marketing system, right? But I like attraction system, right? Because you want to attract the right type of patients.
Absolutely.
Not just every single patient out there, right? You want to attract the right ones. So a lot of the episodes we're going to be talking about is, these marketing systems, making sure that your practice has a predictable recurring revenue system, because cash flow matters. And those insurance companies don't help with that, right? They do three things that hurt your business. They reduce dependence on, or they reduce your profit margins, kill your cash flow, and jeopardize your patient experience. So by developing, recurring revenue through a membership plan, that's going to be really helpful for your practice in regards to cash management and growth there. But really, when you think about the average practice, you may be doing some marketing here and there, but often I've found that in the dental industry that you're doing marketing, you're generating calls and potential business through those calls, but nobody is really tracking and capturing leads and nurturing those leads. I think that's one of the biggest problems. So if you think about like a patient attraction system, you want to be able to put an ad out there, for example, and collect the patient's contact information and then schedule an appointment, right? But what about the patients that don't schedule appointments, right? Not 100% of them will or do, right? So one of the biggest challenges that I see in the dental space is lead collecting and lead nurturing, and collecting those leads that are interested but maybe not ready to go schedule an appointment. So I think that's really, really important, is having a system, a complete system. We'll go into more details and more episodes on each topic. In fact, I think moving forward, every we'll kind of rotate between these topics, between marketing systems, recurring revenue systems, and operation systems, right? As we move forward with the podcast, that's kind of where we'll go. What do you think about that, Just?
Oh, I love it. We've been talking a lot about organizing around systems. I'd love to share a quote. When we were working in the dental lab, both you and I read a book called The E-Myth Revisited.
Love it. I've actually met him.
You've met Michael Gerber, yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's a nice guy.
The book it really spoke to both you and I when we first read it. And
Yeah.
I'd like to share a quote because I think where this podcast is going, we're talking a lot about systems and processes, right? This is all a system and a process, right?
Yeah.
So organize, here's the quote, organize around business functions, not people.
Yeah.
Build systems within each business function. Let systems run the business and people run the systems. People come and go, but the system remains constant. So talking about marketing, talking about operations, talking about sales and the revenue that's coming into the practice, when we understand the fundamentals of building a system inside a business and going through all the details, it creates a solid foundation for a business. Right? That means a stress-free business for a dental owner, a dental practice owner.
It really does, and I know the stress is out there because of the lack of systems, or even the lack of culture, which is a system. You want to have a systematic culture, and we'll obviously have episodes on that as well as we move forward. But no, I think really, I look at how I manage the dental lab with my dad and with you, Justin, and how we manage BoomCloud now. Like, it is a lot less stress than the dental lab days, right? The clinical days.
Yeah,
and it's because of the right marketing systems, the right cash flow, recurring revenue systems, the right operating systems. Culture is a system, you know. So I think it's really important, and this is really our message to our listeners, moving forward. That this is what we're going to be talking about, right? And we chose the name the Automatic Patient Podcast because automation and just automatic is a system, right? You want to create every aspect of your business, of your dental practice, to be automatic, right? And it starts with the patient, right? Attracting and retaining patients. So that's kind of why we chose the title, the name of this podcast, is because that's what we're going to be focusing on, So with that said, Just, what are this is obviously the first episode and an introduction to who we are. Any thoughts? Any additional thoughts that you have before we close out this first episode?
I would say I'm a big reader, so if you're, assembling the components of a business, it's important to understand how to assemble the systems of marketing, of sales, or the recurring revenue element of the business, right? The revenue generation, and an operating system. If people understand those three areas, it's going to really make their business experience a lot smoother.
Sure. What book, for those listening, on the show, our brand new listeners, what's the first book you would recommend they read? I know we read a lot of books here at BoomCloud. And Justin, actually, one of our, it was last year, one of the quarters you read. How many books? How many business books? They're all business.
I read 60 business books in 90 days.
60 business books in 90 days. He's the guy to ask if you want to read a good business book. So what's the first one you would recommend a practice owner reading, or an office manager? I mean,
if it's an office manager or just a dentist, I would recommend probably reading Traction. It's an EOS. It's an operating system that you can apply to literally any type of business. So that's the first book I would tackle. Obviously, I'm over operations here, so that's where my mind goes. So understanding an operating system, because it can be a really foreign thing for somebody to insert an entire operating system in a business. So that's why. Getting your head around that and implementing it in a practice is highly useful.
So an operating system, right? EOS, that's the operating system that Traction talks about, which stands for Entrepreneur Operating System. It's actually how we operate BoomCloud. We actually had a really good friend and coach. Her name's Genevieve Poppy, who does this for practices as well, from Poppy Consulting. She's fantastic. But we've hired her a couple times to help us implement things. But if we look at EOS or the book Traction, it's going to talk about, the importance of having a vision, right? Where are you going? I think most people are happier when they have a goal in mind and a way to look forward for progression. Most people are happy and enjoy life when there's a sense of progression, right? So you,
Absolutely.
as a practice owner, I think it's really important to have your own vision. What are you all about in your business? What excites you, and how are you helping your patients, right? So starting with a vision of what you want your practice to be and where you want to take it is really important, right? Another thing that EOS talks about is making sure you have core values. One of the biggest problems I see in dentistry is that it's kind of loosey-goosey in regards to creating core values for the employees and the leadership team, right? Where you're just kind of hiring as you need it or hiring because you're desperate, and you're getting people in that may not be the right fit for your practice, and they may have the wrong attitudes or the just not qualities you want in a person, an employee, right? So I think creating core values is really, really important. A couple of our core values here at BoomCloud are number one, you've got to be a creative psycho, right? We want creative people because creative people create creative solutions to problems that we're facing. Every business faces some type of problem every day, right? So that's the type of people we want. We also want performance maniacs. We don't want people sitting on their butts, We want people getting things done and helping our customers, right, and moving the company forward. We want team rock stars, which I think is one of the most important core values here, is because we want people to work really well with a team. We've fired some people in the past because they couldn't work well with a team. It's super important. And the fourth one is ownership junkie, right? We want people to own their shit. We want people to, make sure if there's a problem, they say, I got it. I'm going to take care of it. It's on me, right? Ownership junkies are one of my favorite people. Take ownership, So I think of creating operating systems, it starts there. And then obviously, there's a lot more details to what you do. But I would say for my advice, for you listening, for all of our listeners, I would start there with, is making sure you have a clear vision. And you're making sure you're holding your people to a certain quality of attributes and core values, right? So, Justin, on that note, because I know there's a lot to the operating system, what would you suggest a practice do first?
It all starts with vision.
Yeah.
And getting team members aligned.
Explain vision, because some people may be like, "Well, what's vision?" I keep hearing this word vision. Jordan said it a bunch of times. Justin just said it. But what is vision? What's the definition of it, so that our listeners can have a clear understanding of what it is and how and why it's so important?
Yeah. So, to craft a proper vision. I believe there's 8 questions that you need to ask yourself to get in the right mindset of crafting a vision. And let me see. I have.
He's pulling out a book, of course.
I will. Just so everyone knows, I will always have a book on my podcast. So you get ready.
Yes. No, it's good.
So crafting a vision, it has everything to do with what you started to talk about, Jordan.
Yeah.
You start with your core values, right? Because that's the people you're bringing in. You want to bring the right people.
If you're not bringing in the right people, life is not enjoyable. If you're bringing in the right people based off of your core values, it's going to be fun and energetic, and maybe you don't like energy, but it's going to be fun and worthwhile, right? And core values are key, yeah.
They're so key. So you need to ask yourself the first question: what are your core values?
Yeah. What do you value in others?
What do you value in others, right?
Yeah.
Number 2, what is your core focus for your business? Right? What are you focused on?
Yeah. Is it implant dentistry? Is it,
exactly.
Is it
Same day dental crowns.
Yeah, there's a lot
there's a lot
focus on.
to consider, right?
Maybe it's a dental spa. I want people to be relaxed when they come to the dentist,
Exactly.
right? There's a lot of ways, and there's new ways all the time that you can be thinking of, right? Be creative. Don't just copy what's out there. Copy it and make it better, or just be creative. This is the fun part of business.
Yeah. And the next step for crafting a vision is asking yourself, what is your 10-year plan?
Yeah.
Where do you want the business to be in 10 years, right?
So having a vision that has goals in mind, right? You don't just kind of want to fly around aimlessly. You don't move the needle if you do that. Yeah.
No, that's a mistake. So,
you want people. I've noticed too, managing people and a team, that people need vision. People need to see where we're going, because then they tell themselves there's opportunity here.
Exactly.
And with
they can
that
align
opportunity,
around that.
they can align with it, and with that opportunity, they can help their families and provide for their families. I think that's really powerful. And what I'm seeing here at Boom Cloud, compared to earlier days where I kept the vision to myself, because that's just how it worked. And when you start a company from the ground up, like what I did with Boom Cloud, but looking at people and watching them kind of, when they see or hear our vision, they start to talk about all the opportunities they have here. And I think that's really important, once again, for people to see that there's progression opportunities for themselves, because that's what truly makes people happy, is progression. So it's as simple as that. Figure out how to share your vision in a way where your people see the opportunities and see potential progression and growth for themselves.
Awesome. Apart from a 10-year plan, you also need to have a 1 and a 3-year plan for your vision.
Sure.
Like, or you can have revenue goals in those, or whatever you need to do. But where do you see the company in the next year, in the next 3 years, and the next 10 years, right? And then tying it to that vision, right? And then you need to break it down. And this is the most tedious part, and the part where you have to consistently move along across every single quarter of every single year. You build in EOS. They have something called rocks, which are basically 90-day priorities. What are your priorities for the next 90 days? Are they aligned with your revenue goals?
And the vision.
Is everyone and the vision, and does everyone on your team have a 90-day priority to complete within the first quarter, or within quarter 2 or quarter 3, right?
Yeah.
So you get granular, right? You break down this vision, a 10-year plan. You break down how you're gonna view marketing and stuff. You break it all down into 1 year, 3 year, 10 year, all the way down to 90 days.
Yeah.
And every 90 days,
even down to daily, right? Because I think people,
absolutely.
I think people work better when you, if you've got a 90-day goal or a 1 year goal that you're trying to hit. Sometimes I've noticed that team members can get a little bit overwhelmed with that, that type of growth, that type of big thinking. So breaking it down into smaller chunks, I think, is really important. So like daily goals, weekly goals, and then you scale up, right? So what does your team member need to do every day so that it's sure that you hit your goal at the end of the year, or at the end of the quarter, right? Things like that. So that's kind of my 2 cents, just watching people. Because that's what I do now. I think I just watch people and say, how can we improve that from this person, that person, this group of people, right? I think it's really important to watch. And I believe there was a famous saying from the founder of Walmart. He's like, I do management by walking around and watching. And I think that's really powerful, right? Management by walking around. There we go. What's your next question you got for us, or is that all of them? For building vision.
The next part is understanding, and the last part is understanding your issues that you're dealing with as a team. Your internal issues.
There's always going to be issues, and you shouldn't be ashamed of them.
Yeah. So getting them out and talking about them, and EOS goes by. There's an acronym that they use called IDS. We do it here all the time. It's called you identify your issue, you discuss your issue, and you solve your issue.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, because if most people just complain about the issue and be like, well, this is an issue, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, how do you solve it? What do you do?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? And if you're anything like me, I like people who take ownership, those ownership junkies, right?
Yeah.
Own it. Hey, I found this problem. I'm going to do this to fix it. You know, the worst thing, you know, as a founder and CEO, and I'm sure as you practice owners out there, the worst thing that you can hear is, we got this problem, blah, blah, blah. And and you just complain about it, right? Complaining doesn't do anything. Complaining is just a waste of airspace, right? Yeah. So the reason why I like the IDS framework, that identify, discuss, and solve, is because it takes immediate action. I don't like waiting for things. I like to take action. Now, are there issues that are going to take a long time to fix and solve? Absolutely. It'll always be the case. And will there be new ones coming on? Yeah. As long as you and your team figure out those issues, you know, and discuss them and solve them as a team versus complaining about them, then you're going to have a wonderful operating system to start your practice or to scale your practice, right? So those are wonderful questions, Justin. So
super important.
We don't want to, very important. So I recommend you get the book Traction. I'm sure everyone has Amazon Prime. Go download it from Amazon or order the hard book if you like that type of things. Other books that I recommend is, we got a book over at BoomCloud called The $1 Million Membership Plan, which helps and guides practice to create the recurring revenue system, which we briefly discussed, which is an operating system, you know, part of the operating system of a practice. But the $1 Million Membership Plan, it's a free book. We have on our website. Go to boomcloud.com. There's a free book section. We have lots of freebies you can go get that we'll be discussing here. But the $1 Million Membership Plan helps educate your practice to build and scale a membership plan to get to $1 million in annual recurring revenue. You may ask, I don't think that's possible. Well, I have the benefit and the opportunity to see practices across the nation, and it is possible. We see so many practices achieving that type of success with their membership plan, and they're able to cut out insurance companies and live a better life, right, because of that recurring revenue, because of that operating system in their practice. So go to boomcloud.com, check it out. Thank you so much for listening to our very first episode. We're so excited to be pumping out these episodes each week. With that said, we hope everyone has a rockin' day.